They heard him crying from inside the pit and kept eating. You know how the story ends. The boy who was thrown into a pit by his own brothers became the second most powerful man in Egypt. You have heard that part. It is the part they tell in every church, every Sunday school, every children's Bible with the colorful illustrations. But there is a number nobody mentions: 22 years, from the pit to the palace. 22 years of slavery, betrayal, false accusation, and a prison cell in a foreign country. 22 years during which the text gives us almost nothing. And what it does give us, if you read it slowly enough, is not the story of a man being prepared for greatness. It is the story of a man deciding over and over again in the dark whether to keep going. That is the story they never told you. Joseph was 17 years old when his brothers sold him. Not abandoned, not lost, sold. The text is precise about this. The price was 20 pieces of silver. That was the price of a human life. His brothers sat down to eat bread after throwing him in the pit. They heard him crying from inside and sat down to eat. That detail is in the text. One sentence. The writers did not explain it. They did not need to. The traders who bought him were headed to Egypt. Joseph would have walked beside the camels in chains. The journey from Canaan took approximately 3 weeks on foot. 3 weeks to process what had just happened. He was 17. He had never been away from home. He now belonged to strangers who did not speak his language and did not know his name beyond what they needed to call him at market. In Egypt, he was sold again to a man named Potiphar, a senior military official in Pharaoh's household. The text moves quickly here. It says Joseph found favor. That Potiphar made him overseer of everything. What the text does not say, what nobody ever slows down to ask, is how long that took. A 17-year-old foreign slave becoming the trusted overseer of an Egyptian military commander's household does not happen in weeks. It happens over years of choosing to work rather than withdraw, of deciding every single morning to be present in a life he did not choose. The text skips those years entirely. It only records the result. Then came Potiphar's wife. The text gives her no name. She is identified only by her relationship to the man who owned Joseph. She wanted him. He refused. Not once. The text implies this happened day after day. He did not listen. He avoided being alone with her. He held the line in a house where he had no power, and she had all of it. On the day she grabbed his garment and he ran, she turned the rejection into an accusation. She showed the garment to the men of the household. She told the same story to Potiphar when he returned. There is a detail in the text that most people miss. It says Potiphar's anger was kindled, but it does not say he believed her completely. A man who had trusted Joseph with everything, who had placed his entire household in Joseph's hand, does not simply execute a slave on his wife's word without hesitation. The text does not explain the gap between accusation and decision. It only records the outcome. Potiphar put Joseph in prison, not executed, imprisoned. Joseph was approximately 20 years old. He had been betrayed by his brothers, sold twice, and falsely accused of a crime he did not commit. He had been in Egypt for 3 years, 19 years still to go. Prison in ancient Egypt for a foreign slave accused of assaulting the household of a senior military official was not a temporary holding. It was a sentence without a defined end. Joseph had no advocate, no legal standing, no family who knew where he was. His father believed he was dead. His brothers had brought back his coat covered in goat's blood, and Jacob had mourned him for years. Nobody was coming, and he knew it. The text says again, he found favor. The prison warden put him in charge of the other prisoners. The same pattern as Potiphar's house. The same choice being made again in a smaller, darker room. Then came the cupbearer and the baker, two of Pharaoh's officials who had offended the king and been imprisoned. Joseph interpreted their dreams. The baker would be executed in 3 days. The cupbearer would be restored to his position. Both happened exactly as Joseph said. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph asked him one thing. Remember me. Mention me to Pharaoh. Get me out of this place. The text says the cupbearer did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. 2 full years passed. Joseph had now been in prison for approximately 2 years. He had been in Egypt for approximately 11 years. He was approximately 28 years old. He had asked for one thing from the one person who could help him, and that person forgot. When Pharaoh's dream came and the cupbearer finally remembered, 2 years later, Joseph was brought from the prison. The text says they shaved him and changed his clothes before he appeared before Pharaoh. A small detail that carries weight. He had been in prison long enough that his appearance required preparation before he could stand in royal presence. He was 30 years old. Pharaoh told him his dream. Joseph interpreted it. 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. Store grain now, or the civilization collapses. Pharaoh asked, "Can we find anyone else in whom the Spirit of God is like this?" And he gave Joseph authority over all of Egypt. In a single morning, everything changed. But here is what the text does not explain, and what nobody in the Sunday school version ever asks. How do you become that person? How do you go through 22 years of being thrown away by your family, by the system, by the one man you asked for help, and come out the other side without a bitterness so complete it disables you? Because the text shows us a Joseph who, when he finally had power over the brothers who sold him, did not immediately use it against them, who wept when he saw them, who asked about his father before he asked about anything else. That is not the outcome of 22 years of surviving. That is the outcome of 22 years of choosing something specific in the dark, over and over, when nobody was watching and nothing was guaranteed. The text does not tell us what that choice looked like on an ordinary Tuesday in year 14. It only shows us what it produced. 22 years is not a footnote. It is the story. The pit was not the low point. The pit lasted days. The low point was the morning after the cupbearer left and Joseph was still there, and the morning after that, and the 2 years of mornings that followed. No one saw those years. No one recorded them. The text preserves the outline. Slave, overseer, accused, imprisoned, forgotten, elevated. What it cannot preserve is the weight of a single ordinary day in that prison when Joseph had no reason to believe the story was going anywhere, when there was no dream to interpret, no official to impress, no sign that anything was coming. Just another day of choosing who to be when it cost everything and returned nothing. The version they teach you begins with the coat and ends with the reunion. It skips the 22 years because 22 years is not a sermon. It does not resolve neatly. It does not offer a clear moral you can write on a card and put on your refrigerator. 22 years is just a man in the dark, making choices that nobody recorded and nobody celebrated and nobody even knew about until the morning everything changed. The story they told you is true. It is just not the whole story. The part they left out is the part that actually explains how we got there. And the part they left out is the part that might actually be for you.